Forget the picture in your head. The red barn, the few dozen hens wandering around a yard, the kid throwing feed out of a bucket. That is not what this is. Chicken is the most eaten meat on the planet. In the United States alone, roughly 9 billion birds are raised every year. 9 billion. And getting them from a hatchery to a grocery shelf is one of the most optimized industrial systems human beings have ever built, run with a precision that would look familiar in a semiconductor plant. So let me put 3 facts in front of you. Fact 1. Over the last 70 years, almost everything in your grocery store got more expensive. Chicken went the other way. Adjusted for inflation, it got dramatically cheaper, to the point where it went from a special occasion meal to the default protein of the entire developed world. That kind of efficiency doesn't come from nowhere. Somebody paid for it, and the person who paid is almost certainly not who you would guess. Fact 2, and this is the one that should stop you. You can own a chicken farm, run it for 20 years, and never own a single chicken. Not a metaphor, not a technicality. In the modern American poultry industry, the birds inside your buildings belong to somebody else, the entire time they're there. Fact 3. To get into this business, farmers routinely borrow more than $1 million on loans that run 20 years or longer, against a contract that can end after the next batch of birds. Long debt, short contract. Hold on to that, because it's the whole story. Let's start with the dream, because it's genuinely reasonable. Food is the one thing nobody stops buying. Chicken demand rises almost every year. And here's a business where a massive corporation shows up and offers you a contract, handles the sales, handles the marketing, handles the processing, and all you have to do is raise the birds. Recession-proof, guaranteed buyer, no marketing budget. On paper, that sounds like the safest agricultural business in the country. Now the reality. You'll take on $1 million or more in debt for buildings that have exactly one possible use on this earth. You'll be paid by a formula that ranks you against your own neighbors. The 2 things that most determine your score are chosen and delivered to you by the company doing the grading. And in a lot of regions, there's exactly one buyer within driving distance, which means if that relationship ends, your $1 million asset is worth close to scrap. So before you sign anything, understand what you're actually buying, because it isn't a farm. You're buying a position inside somebody else's supply chain, and you are financing it yourself. Now, one clarification, because chicken farm covers several completely different businesses, and mixing them up will confuse everything. There are broiler farms, which raise chickens for meat, and that's what we're focused on today, because it's how the overwhelming majority of chicken is actually produced. There are layer operations, which produce eggs, and those have completely different economics and completely different price behavior. There are breeder farms and hatcheries further up the chain, and there are independent and pasture-raised operations, which are a genuinely different business selling to a genuinely different customer at a genuinely different price. We're talking about the contract broiler model, because that's the machine that feeds most of the world. And to understand it, you need one concept. It's called vertical integration. Here's what it means in practice. A handful of enormous companies, names like Tyson, Pilgrim's Pride, Purdue, control essentially the entire chain. They own the breeding stock and the genetics. They own the hatchery that produces the chicks. They own the feed mill and the formula. They provide the veterinary care and the medication. They own the trucks that pick up the birds. They own the processing plant. They own the packaging and the brand on the shelf. They control every single link, except one: the buildings. The single most capital-intensive, most rapidly depreciating, least flexible piece of the entire chain. That part got pushed outward, onto independent farmers who borrow money to build it themselves. And I want to be clear about something. From a pure business design standpoint, this is brilliant, genuinely brilliant. The company gets enormous production capacity without carrying a single one of those buildings on its balance sheet. It gets a supply base it can grow or shrink depending on demand. It never has to worry about a barn roof, or a propane bill, or a ventilation fan failing at 2 in the morning. They kept everything that scales, and they handed away everything that depreciates. So now we've got a strange arrangement. The company owns the chickens. The company owns the feed those chickens eat. The company owns the medicine, the trucks, and the plant at the end of the road. The farmer owns a building full of birds that belong to somebody else. Which leaves an obvious question, and it's the one that unlocks this entire industry. If you don't own the chickens, and you don't own the feed, and you don't sell the meat, then how exactly do you get paid? The answer is a payment system that works almost nothing like the rest of the economy. It's the reason 2 farmers, doing identical work in identical buildings on the same road, can end a year with wildly different amounts of money. And once you see how it works, you'll understand why this business is so hard to leave. It's called the tournament system. And once you understand it, you understand everything. Here's how it works. You get paid a base rate for every pound of live chicken you deliver, fractions of a cent per pound, multiplied across hundreds of thousands of birds. Simple enough so far. But that base rate isn't what you actually take home. Because at the end of every flock, the company compares you against the other farmers who delivered birds in the same window, and it ranks you. The main thing they measure is feed conversion. How many pounds of feed did it take you to produce a pound of chicken? Efficient growers finish near the top. Inefficient growers finish near the bottom. Finish in the upper half, you get a bonus above your base rate. Finish in the lower half, you get docked below it. Same work, same hours, same buildings. Different check. Now here's the part that changes how you see this. What actually determines your feed conversion? Two things, above all else. The quality of the chicks you were given, and the quality of the feed you were sent. And you chose neither of them. Both are selected, mixed, and delivered by the company that is doing the ranking. You don't get to inspect the chicks before they arrive. You don't get to test the feed. You don't get to shop around. A truck shows up, unloads, and you find out how you did 6 weeks later. So you're competing in a race where somebody else picks your equipment, hands it to you at the starting line, and then grades you against your neighbors on how fast you ran. And it's a closed pool. The total amount the company pays out stays roughly fixed. So the bonus paid to the farmer at the top is funded by the money taken from the farmer at the bottom. For one of you to go up, another has to come down. The people living on the same road, in the same county, going to the same church, are structurally set against each other. Now let's talk about what all of this costs you, because the farmer carries almost all of it. Start with the buildings. A modern broiler house is an enormous structure, often 500 or 600 feet long, holding tens of thousands of birds. Each one commonly runs somewhere in the range of $300,000 to $500,000, sometimes more. And a single house isn't a viable operation. You typically need 4 or more. That's how you land north of $1 million in debt before your first chicken arrives. Then the land. Then the equipment, which is far more sophisticated than people imagine. Automated feed lines, water systems, computer-controlled ventilation and cooling, heaters, alarm systems, and backup generators, which are not a luxury. If ventilation fails on a hot night, you can lose an entire house of birds in under an hour. That's why growers describe waking up at 3 in the morning to an alarm on their phone as a normal part of the job. Then utilities. And this one is brutal because it's volatile. Propane for heating, electricity for ventilation. When fuel prices spike, that cost lands directly on the farmer. Nobody reimburses you for a cold winter. Then labor, including the daily reality of walking the houses and collecting the birds that didn't make it. Then bedding material, litter management and disposal. Then repairs. And then the one that catches people, mandated upgrades. The company can require new equipment to keep your contract current, which means a capital call can arrive in year 6 of a 20-year mortgage, and declining it may not really be an option. Then debt service, which swallows most of what's left. And finally, the gap nobody budgets for. Between flocks, the houses sit empty while they're cleaned and prepared. You earn nothing during that stretch. The loan payment arrives anyway. So what comes back in? You run roughly 5 to 7 flocks a year, each cycle running about 6 to 8 weeks. You're paid per pound of live weight, adjusted by your tournament ranking. And there's one more revenue line worth mentioning, because it's oddly poetic. The litter, the manure, sold off as fertilizer. It is, quite literally, one of the only things in this entire operation that actually belongs to the farmer. Run the arithmetic and you get an uncomfortable picture. On an investment north of $1 million, net income after debt service frequently lands in a range that looks like a modest salary, which is why a very large share of contract growers keep off-farm jobs, and why in a lot of these households, somebody is working in town to keep the farm going. Now the 3 things underneath all of it. The first is the mismatch we flagged at the start. 20-year debt against a contract that can run flock to flock. Your obligation is long and fixed. Your income agreement is short and revocable. That asymmetry is the entire risk of this business compressed into one sentence. The second is that a broiler house is a single-purpose asset. It cannot become a warehouse. It cannot become a home. It cannot become anything else of real value. It was built for one thing, for one customer. The third is that in many regions, there is only one integrator within economical driving distance. One buyer. Chickens can't be trucked 400 miles to a competitor, and there often isn't a competitor anyway. Put those 3 together and look at what you get. If the contract ends, you still owe the money, you still own the buildings, and there is nobody to sell your capacity to. Which means the company effectively holds an option on the farmer's entire net worth, and the farmer holds nothing at all on the company. There's one more layer, and it's remarkable. The bird itself. The modern broiler is one of the most optimized organisms on the planet. 70 years ago, a chicken took roughly 3 months to reach a few pounds. Today, it reaches market weight in around 6 or 7 weeks, on dramatically less feed per pound. That transformation traces back to a national breeding competition in the late 1940s, called the Chicken of Tomorrow, which set out to engineer a bigger, faster meat bird. It worked, and it turned chicken from a byproduct of the egg business into an industry. But that genetic advantage is controlled by a very small number of global breeding companies, one of which is owned by a major integrator. So the animal at the center of your business is something you cannot independently buy. And sitting behind all of it is biological risk. Avian influenza outbreaks have killed tens of millions of birds in recent years and sent egg prices to record highs. Disease is the one variable in this industry that no contract can allocate away. So let's assemble the whole thing. The company owns the genetics, the chicks, the feed, the medicine, the trucks, the plant, and the brand. The farmer owns the buildings, the mortgage, the fuel bill, the labor, the generator that has to work at 3 in the morning, and the manure. Every cost that depreciates sits with the person who owns none of the product. And here's the twist. Look at it clearly, and this was never really a farming arrangement. It's a financing arrangement, wearing the costume of a partnership. A company got $1 million production facility built for it, maintained for it, insured for it, and staffed for it around the clock, without borrowing $1 or owning a single brick of it. And here's why this matters, far beyond chicken. Because that arrangement didn't stay in poultry. It became a template. Look at the shape of it. A large company keeps the brand, the customer, the data, and the pricing power. And it pushes the expensive, depreciating, risky part of the operation onto an independent partner who finances it personally, and who is told they're running their own business. You already know this pattern. The driver who owns the car. The delivery contractor who owns the van and rents the warehouse space. The franchisee who buys the building and then follows a manual written by somebody else. Different industries, different decades, identical architecture. The contract chicken farm was the prototype for the modern asymmetric partnership. And because it's been running for 70 years, it's the one version of this model where we can actually see how the story ends. Which is why it's worth understanding, even if you never go near a barn. So where is it heading? Consolidation keeps going. There's been real regulatory attention on grower pay transparency and contract fairness in recent years, with actual rulemaking, but progress has been slow and heavily contested. Growers have been organizing and pushing for better terms, with mixed results. Automation is reducing labor, but it raises the capital bar even higher, which tends to favor larger operations and squeeze smaller ones. And on alternative proteins, let me be honest rather than dramatic. So far, their effect on chicken demand has been modest. Global chicken consumption keeps climbing. The real long-run pressure on this industry isn't people switching to something else. It's disease, and the biology of raising billions of nearly identical animals in close quarters. But here's the thing I want to leave you with. Cheap chicken is real, and it's genuinely an achievement. A protein that was once a Sunday luxury is now the most affordable meat on Earth, feeding billions of people who could not otherwise afford it. That system works, spectacularly, at exactly what it was designed to do. But efficiency at that scale never comes from nowhere. Part of it came from the bird. Decades of breeding produced an animal that grows twice as fast on far less feed. And part of it came from the arrangement, from taking the most expensive, least flexible piece of the entire supply chain and placing it on the balance sheet of the person in the chain with the least power to say no. The cheap chicken is real. It just wasn't free. It was financed by the farmer. So should you do it? 2 versions, as always. In the good version, your houses are paid off or nearly there. You've got a long, stable relationship with an integrator, you consistently rank in the top of the tournament, your utility costs are manageable, and your land has real value on its own. That's genuine cash flow on an asset you actually control, and plenty of families have built a good life on exactly that. In the hard version, the houses are new, the loan is fresh, there's one integrator in your county, an upgrade demand lands in year 6, propane spikes through a cold winter, and you finish in the bottom half of a ranking you cannot explain because you didn't choose the chicks. Fixed debt, variable pay, no other buyer. Here's what to carry out of this. The person in this story isn't really a farmer. They're an investor who financed a factory for somebody else, took on all of the operating risk, and kept whatever was left at the end. And what's left is always whatever remains after the company that owns everything else has been paid. You can own the land, you can own the buildings, you can own every dollar of the debt, and still not own the business.